And then the fact that the creators had their own lawyer here is a really interesting component to me. I know there are a number of different figures out there as to how much the creator economy is worth. I saw one figure, it's 24 billion according to some sources. But there are real businesses that we at Forbes have covered that are growing on TikTok. How remarkable to you was it that that constituent group had representation in today's arguments?
Well, I mean, I think the practical reason that that group of people had their own lawyers, they can make arguments that TikTok and ByteDance can't quite make. TikTok and ByteDance did make arguments about their own speech, specifically about TikTok Inc.'s speech. TikTok Inc. is a foreign-owned corporation, but it's a U.S. corporation nonetheless. And as a U.S. corporation, it has speech rights. And so the sort of trouble with that is when we're talking about TikTok Inc.'s speech rights, we have to figure out what within the TikTok ByteDance ecosystem is TikTok speech and what within that is ByteDance's speech. And the recommendations algorithm is ByteDance's speech, probably. The judges seemed to buy that argument. But TikTok Inc. is then doing speech on top of that. TikTok Inc. is the one that's doing like a number of content promotion decisions, a number of content moderation decisions, right? TikTok Inc. can take an account down for violating its community standards. And that is a US actor taking a speech action, right? But if the recommendations are not protected speech, it's really hard to divorce those two buckets of speech if you're going to treat them differently from a First Amendment analysis perspective.
I was going to say it sounds layered. And
It
is
is
there a
layered.
way to delayer it? Is there a future solution that's a compromise? But if it's so interwoven, perhaps it can't be undone and it leaves TikTok and ByteDance in between, as you say, two governments.
So a couple things. First of all, the layering is really key. That is something that has always been a really important component to understanding TikTok and ByteDance and the government's concerns about them, is that these things are layered on top of each other. As to whether there's compromise, at the end of the day, the court is going to make a decision about whether this law stands or not. And so somebody's going to win more than the other guy, probably, and somebody's going to appeal. However, it would not surprise me if the government or if the court here tried to take a sort of middle road. They were, I think, wary about applying strict scrutiny, which is the framework that TikTok wants to be in. They also seemed wary of saying the First Amendment doesn't apply at all here. So they could be moving towards some sort of heightened scrutiny that isn't all the way heightened scrutiny. There's something called intermediate scrutiny that they might apply. They could go all the way to strict scrutiny, or they could go all the way to, there are some incidental First Amendment concerns, but they're not that big. I would be a little surprised if they said that the concerns are only incidental, but I think it's probably most likely that the court will try to chart some sort of intermediate pathway here. That said, they can't chart a fully intermediate pathway. Either the law stands or the law falls. And so we're going to get a tilt one way or the other, and then we're going to get an appeal one way or the other.